Hello everyone, welcome to a mini lecture on body axes. Now this is an anatomy, and this is what you should be learning after the joint lecture, either in your class or if you watched my lecture. Alright, so what do we mean by body axes? Well, this is to describe movement of muscles around their joint axis, so from the joints. Now there are a couple incorrect terms here in the general sense, so I kind of marked it out and written the correct term. So we cut this guy, say, through here. Say if we shot a spear through him, facing him laterally. Well, this would be the transverse axis. No, this is different from body plane, so just keep that in mind. You'll see why. Now, say we shot a spear up through his rectum and then out through his head. Well, that would be the longitudinal axis. And what if he shot a spear right at his penis? Well, that would be the anterior-posterior axis. Now, have these memorized. It won't be, this is going to be a short lecture, so it's very simple. Well, when we move upon or along the transverse axis, say there's like kind of an arrow that's rotating around here, we can move one arm transversely. We can also have a spear up here, say. And so we can have an arm that moves up and down. That'll be moving around the transverse axis. If you see right here, we're moving around the transverse axis because we move like that. Now we have extension and flexion. Well, extension is going to be increasing in angle. Now, and flexion is going to be decreasing in angle. So say you had a knee, you're flexing the knee, you're decreasing the angle between the joint. So that'd be flexion. Extension would be increasing the angle of the joint. Now there'd be hyperextension, which means, well, you're increasing the angle more than the joint is normally accustomed to. And if you hyperextend the knee, you can actually hyperextend the knee, but you can't go any further. And if you do, then you're going to break it and you're going to be in a world of pain. It's probably the worst ways to break your knee. Now, if you move on the anterior-posterior axis, remember, we kind of have it going through his penis here and moving towards that axis. When we move towards the adduction, we're adding the limb onto the body. We move towards adduction. So we're adducting, say we have an arm that's over here and we move it towards his pelvis. That would be an adduction. Now abduction, we're abducting it. Say there's a UFO abducting the arm and pulling it up off to the side. He's lifting his arms above his head. That would be adduction or abduction. A circumduction would just be moving an arm around in a circle. Now longitudinally, remember, say we shot a spear down at his head and out through his rectum and shot it on the ground. Well, now he can move around only around that spear. That would be called a rotation. Now we have lateral rotation and medial rotation. You can immediately rotate your glenohumeral joint. Say you had your arm turned like that. You can turn your hand. Well, that's pretty much it. But there's some more that you should be able to know. To think about it, say this guy's moving around this axis. Say the spear is there. He can't move anywhere else. He's just moving around the spear. Moving around the spear. Moving around the spear. And there are some unique terms you want to know. So there's elevation and depression. That could be the mandible, excuse me, or it could be the shoulders. You elevate the mandible, you're moving it upwards. If you depress the mandible, you're moving it downwards. If you retract your shoulders, you're moving it backwards. If you protract your shoulders, you're moving it forward, you're rolling it forwards. If you pronate your radius over your ulna, you're rotating your hand medially. That's called pronation. If you rotate it laterally, that's called supination. So those are unique terms. A lot of this is memorization, so I encourage you to rewatch this video and kind of take, half a page of notes or draw your own model. Well, I appreciate you coming and watch this, and I hope it helped. Goodbye.